prepare for a thrill. We have stories of the dead coming back
to life, tales of the
night evil.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
The All-American Spookshow.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the All-American Spookshow podcast. As always, I'm Josh, and I'm joined here with my friends Will.
What up?
And my good friend, the Professor Smoke.
Hey.
And this episode, we're going to do 2003's 28 Days Later. We just figured it was an extremely topical, somewhat, and obviously it's an overdramatic way, but it's topical in the sense of everything that's going on right now across the world with this coronavirus pandemic, which I know pretty much everywhere around the world, but especially, for us here in the United States, and we all live in South Carolina, and we go back and forth to North Carolina a lot, since we live right here near Charlotte. It's definitely affected our area pretty heavily. Smoke, how has it affected you down there in the middle of South Carolina with all this stuff going on?
We have a lot of business shut down. As far as restaurants, you can go to the drive-thru for the most, but not inside, and I'm sure it's like that pretty much everywhere. Things like that. There's a mall here, very small mall anyway, but the mall is shut down. Walmart, is open, but it's limited hours. I think I forget what it was now, 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. to 7:30 or 7 p.m. or so, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
So stuff like that. So a lot of stuff is shut down. Not everything where I work at is still functioning. I actually had put in for vacation, so my job is like a 12-hour rotation type thing. It's so I'm off 4 days, work 5 days, whatever. So I put in vacation for 5 days, and I had 5 days off on one side and 4 days off on the other. So I had 14 days off in a row. The plans that we had originally put in for that vacation was to go up north to my wife's nephew was getting married. And they had to postpone that, of course, with everything that's going on. So we canceled the plans to go up there. So hanging out at the house now for those 14 days, pretty much.
Yeah, there's never a good time for something like this. But as far as here in the U.S., the timing of this has been during spring breaks, where I'm sure millions of people had vacations planned, and and obviously that's not the end of the world. You can pretty much, for the most part, you might eat a little bit of money, but I think they're kind of forgiving, if you have to cancel plans for this kind of thing. So, I guess it's not the end of the world, but it's definitely horribly timed with that kind of thing. And it's had a big effect on the economy here. You're pretty much not going anywhere other than, your job if you're essential, or you're working from home. Otherwise, you're just going to a grocery store or the pharmacy, and that's about it. Maybe a gas station, and that's about it. You're not doing anything else. No movie theaters, no malls. No sporting events. Even some of the public parks are closed and stuff. It's pretty much a shutdown. You're just kind of hanging around and keeping to yourself and your family.
Yeah, I think the most that we did was go over to my dad's house last night and have dinner.
Yeah,
and that's the most we've gotten out, other than running to Walmart for something.
Yeah,
for the last week and a half or so.
That's just kind of life for everybody right now. Obviously we're all, we're not alone in that. Everyone's being affected by this, at least in some small way, for sure. So from us here at the Spook Show, we hope everybody's doing well, and hopefully we can all kick out of this sooner or later, and we can come out the other side a lot better for it. I will say these days it's probably about the cleanest public places are going to be, right?
True. You
could probably damn near eat off the floor in some places these days, if they'd let you in to do so. Obviously you wouldn't, but you get what I'm saying. I knew we were in trouble when I saw one of the Waffle Houses was closed. I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
You can't even go inside a Waffle House. This is for real. So yeah, hopefully, there's not a huge economic and, fallout from this isn't enormous, and hopefully a lot of these small businesses and all movie theaters, but especially those kind of locally owned movie theaters and small businesses and stuff like that, hopefully they can reopen, because I've heard some people say that this might be the death of some small businesses and movie theaters and restaurants and stuff, because they just, they're taking it so hard that they won't be able to reopen. So hopefully, that's not the case, and a lot of these small businesses can reopen here in the coming weeks and months. But otherwise, yeah, we thought we'd, to kind of turn things around a little bit, although it is kind of a dire movie, we thought we'd have a little fun and watch 28 Days Later, kind of have a little fun with the topic, so to speak, as as far as what's going on in the world compared to this. And obviously, this is by far worst case scenario of anything that could possibly happen to the world. This movie, 28 Days Later. What we're dealing with is very serious and shouldn't be taken lightly, but you get what I mean. Like, well, it's not this serious. So just kind of put it in perspective. You watch a movie where this event has happened that's as far horrible, far more, I don't know the phrase, it's far worse than what we're dealing with. But this is one of the better horror movies, I think, probably of the last 20 years or so, for sure, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
28 Days Later, which, of course, was directed by Danny Boyle, who, is extremely successful, Oscar-winning movie director. I'm not sure where this falls in the pecking order of his movies. I'd say it's pretty high, as far as, like, my favorite movies that the dude has done. But, I mean, critically, like, he did 127 Hours, Slumdog Millionaire, which he won an Oscar for, and he was nominated for Oscars for 127 Hours. But he, according to IMDb, he's directed 30 movies. He'd be mostly be known for those I just named, in a movie called Shallow Grave.
And then my personal favorite, Trainspotting.
Yes, of course. I think that's a favorite of all of ours, I would imagine. Trainspotting.
Oh, yeah.
A Life Less Ordinary. I'm just kind of running through the list. Of course, Willie's favorite, a movie called Vacuuming Completely Nude in Paradise.
Oh.
Who hasn't seen that one?
Ah, yes. That old
Who
chestnut.
hasn't done that one? No. Seen that one?
Millions, Sunshine.
Yeah, Sunshine, that we mentioned that one. That's one I need to get back to, because I saw it once when it came out. I actually own it. Bought it back when it came out, but I've only seen it that one time. And I need to revisit it, because I remember liking it, but I think it's time to pull that one back out.
He even directed one of many, many versions of Frankenstein. The one from 2011 that had Benedict Cumberbatch in it. The dude's done a little bit of everything, all the way up to he directed the fucking Olympic opening ceremony of the Olympics in London 2012. So yeah, he's been over, and I think we were talking about it before. He did T2 Trainspotting 2, whatever the fuck the name of it's a weird name, but Trainspotting 2.
Terminator 2?
Yeah, well, it says here, listen on IMDb, it says T2 Trainspotting, whatever. Trainspotting 2. He did that as well, and we were talking about that beforehand, that none of us have seen that one yet, right?
No, considering how much I do love Trainspotting, I don't know why I just haven't gotten around to the second one yet.
Sometimes it falls that way. It's random,
well,
But
apparently Smoke lost his lust for life.
He also directed a movie in 2019 called Yesterday, which I don't know if you guys saw this, because I actually saw it. It's the premise.
Dude, I'm about halfway through that movie.
Yeah, the premise is like this guy like gets into like he's a bike courier or something, right? And he gets into an accident, and when he wakes up, he's the only person in the world that remembers the Beatles. No one else in the world has heard of the Beatles, so like he basically starts playing the Beatles songs as his own and becomes like the biggest artist in the world. It's a pretty good movie. Like it's a bit long, but I enjoyed it. So I definitely suggest checking that one out. But yeah, Danny Boyle is one of the better directors of the day for sure. I mean, he's got a full palette of different types of movies. Pretty much any kind of movie you like, he's probably done one of that genre. So, and he's kind of got a gritty style, which you see really rears its head in 28 Days Later for sure, and of course Trainspotting. So for 28 Days Later, it was released June 27th, 2003, and I'm not dead sure, but I'm pretty sure we went and saw this at the movie theater. Hell, I probably went with you, Willie, back in the day when it came out. But I'm almost
about right.
Yeah, I'm almost positive I went to the movie theater and saw this, and I enjoyed the shit out of it at the time. I think I've seen it a few times since then, so a little bit of the shock wears off a little bit, compared to that first time you watched it back then. But I think it still holds up pretty well. I mean, it's definitely done in that grainy. It's very visceral, I think, in some ways. The way it was shot and put together and everything. It's a tad long in my opinion, but
yeah.
But still, I mean, it's still done well enough to where like that doesn't bug you too much, So,
well, I was kind of surprised while I was watching this movie. You get about halfway through it, and like they've made it out of the city, and then like the second half of the movie takes place, like in the for lack of a better word, army house.
Yeah.
I was surprised at how much it slowed down there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems like, and we'll get into that, but I know that I've seen some criticisms about the movie in that part of it. Like, that's where it kind of loses some people, when it goes to that place in the movie. I think, any somewhat negative reviews I saw of it were kind of, that's where it kind of lost them at. It drags a little bit there, and it just kind of it doesn't feel like the rest of the movie for sure. But either way, this movie is obviously rated R. It has a total runtime of 1 hour and 53 minutes. So, like I said, it's a pretty long movie. On IMDb, it is listed as a drama, horror, sci-fi. So I guess it has all those elements in it for sure.
Did it say anything in there about male genitalia?
No, but it's definitely there.
It should really have a warning.
I should get in a better habit of leading off with this, but because I always end up doing it after we start talking about it. I should say if you've listened this far, this is a spoiler podcast, so everything we're going to say, like, you need to stop this, go watch the movie, then come back and listen. That being said, that scene in particular, where like the main character, Cillian Murphy's character, Jim, when he wakes up in the hospital and he's laying there butt naked. Beyond the butt ass, dick out naked part of it, it's definitely reminiscent of The Walking Dead, the beginning of The Walking Dead. Yeah. So now, if you go look at the timeline of things, this movie came out in, like I said, June 27th of 2003. The first issue of The Walking Dead came out in October of 2003.
And that's the comic book, not the show.
Yeah, not the show, because the show was a handful of years later, but the first issue of the comic book was in October 2003, and it starts basically the same way, where there's a little bit of something that happens, and then, bam, the main character, Rick Grimes, he wakes up, and he's in the hospital all alone. So it's very...
naked, full on, full front. Oh, no.
He's full hog. Laying in...
They were going all out for it, AMC was, the first couple episodes.
Yeah. But yeah, it's very reminiscent, so it makes you wonder if... I don't think it was influenced by this movie. But hey, you never know, right? I mean, the timeline kind of jives. I don't think so.
True, I don't know if it's ever... I mean, I never looked up the C2 if it was any sort of reference paid there, or if it was just total coincidence that, that they both opened in a hospital in a similar post-apocalyptic situation.
I lean more towards it's probably just a happy coincidence. But hey, you never know. Like I said, timeline-wise, it does kind of jive. Like, Robert Kirkman might have watched this movie and then said, hey, that's a good idea, and then maybe as an homage, maybe not like as a straight rip, but as an homage to this, at the time. Because this was definitely a popular movie at the time, for sure, This was one of those ones that kind of rejuvenated.
It also has its own nods to, which I know when we get there later, it has some nods to some other movies itself.
This is definitely an homage to Night of the Living Dead and the horror or the zombie genre for sure. But and we can get into that debate. This isn't a zombie movie. Like,
true.
Do we agree or disagree on that? I mean, I guess we can go ahead and get into it if you want. What do you guys think?
I mean, my personal thing on it was that it's not technically a zombie movie because they're not dead, but it uses the conventions of a zombie film premise. Some of them, not all of them.
Yeah.
So it feels like a zombie movie without actually being one is where I kind of describe it, I guess.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, like, I think I've said this before, like, to me, like, one of the main comparisons, however you want to, to be in that genre, so to speak, would be like, it'd have to be a reanimated dead, right? Like, that's kind of the definition of zombie.
That would be the number one. They'd have to be dead.
Yeah, they'd have to be dead and then reanimated, come back to life. So, like, or some version of life, right? So, like, I don't think that's what's happening here, though. This is like a virus. As soon as it gets in you, and it's called rage, you just go fucking crazy, and like it seems like your only purpose in life is to give rage to others. That's like that's all you're left here for. But one bullet and you're dead, right? I mean, they could put a bullet in your head and you're dead. Yeah. Like whereas a zombie,
I don't think they're superhuman strength or anything. I mean, they just have strength in numbers, like like any group of humans would, and and the thing makes them rage. So I guess maybe they got an adrenaline boost from whatever.
I would say I would say that's probably more what it is an adrenaline boost as opposed to, dead power, superpower, or whatever the hell, it's just different. So, and it seems like I've heard this kind of debate over the years about this movie. Like, And it seems like, and I could be wrong, you know, anyone feel free to point it out, but I think I saw somewhere years ago that George Romero, was a little, I wouldn't say he hated the movie or whatever, but I think he had some criticisms, you know, for the fact that, like, zombies don't run around. You know, like, his zombies are slow and lumbering and shuffle their feet. They don't run at you, you know, like, so I think that was one of his criticisms.
That was the big thing with that movie, was that, you know, running zombies versus slow zombies, but the whole thing is that they're not zombies. They've never been dead, so it's not really there's not really a debate there, because they just gotten contaminated or infected or whatever with this thing, caused them to do that, and then they can run because, well, they're still just human. They're not dead.
Yeah.
Well, what in the Crazies? Didn't they have, like, they had the infected people, but they ran, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that would be a little bit more of a direct, like, line
correlation with this movie. Yeah.
Now, are you comparing the original or the remake when you're talking about? Because I don't remember. I mean, Smoke, you probably more better to speak on the differences there, right? Like, in the original, do they run around? Because I'm not recalling.
Yeah, in the original, the Crazies, it's been a while since I've seen it either, and I can't remember how they reacted in that one. I just remember it is similar, though, as far as it being that. Now that you mentioned that was one of the movies I was thinking about mentioning before we got to this one, 28 Days Later, for doing it this time. Whatever was crazy, the remake anyway, because it wouldn't have fallen. You know, the old one wouldn't have fallen within the criteria of doing the new movie right now. And I've seen both movies, but it's been a while since I've seen either of them, and it's been even longer time since I've seen the original Romero one. So I can't remember if they run or not in that one right now.
I think we've mentioned this on the podcast before, but I'm pretty sure the last time I went and I saw the Crazies, Romero's, you know, the original, was when we went to see it, where George Romero was actually there and did like a Q&A or whatever.
Okay, yeah, that's I remember that was. I remember being pissed about that because that was shortly after I left Charlotte when that happened.
Yeah,
damn.
Yeah, because Will, you went with me. We saw that one in the original Dawn of the Dead and the Crazies. It was like a double bill with Romero was there. Like I said, I think we've talked about that in the past episode. But but that was a while back. So it's been, God Almighty, that's probably knocking on 15 years ago, give or take. So it's or at least well over 10 years ago.
At least that or longer for me too. So
yeah, so it's been a while, so I can't remember. But the Crazies probably is a more fair comparison to this than, say, Night of the Living Dead or something like that, right? Because of the infection thing and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the debate over the running. Me personally, when it comes to actual zombie movies, when you have running versus slow moving zombies, Dawn of the Dead remake is a prime example of that, where they changed it to where the zombies run, and I think it was just to make it different, to make it more of a more of a tension builder, you know, because they're coming after you fast. But for me, I've always been a slow moving zombie guy.
Yeah.
When it comes to actual zombie movies. And I actually like the Dawn of the Dead remake, but I just prefer the slow, shambling dead. There's something about that that's eerier and creepier to me than the running zombies, I guess.
They run in that new one, right? The one the Dawn of the Dead remake. Don't they kind of come at you and run? Yeah. Yeah,
that one they do. That one, I think they took a little bit of influence from 28 Days Later as far as the way the zombies react in that movie. They took from the way the infected kind of react in 28 Days Later.
And that remake of Dawn of the Dead came out like not too long after that.
2007.
No, I think it was.
I think it was 2007.
No, it was. Hold on, I got it right here. That came
no, that's right.
That came out March 19th of 2004. So it was less than a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, less than a year after 28 Days Later came out was the Dawn of the Dead remake.
Okay.
So I guess
that probably did take some influence from that movie then.
You kind of have 28 Days Later, and then the remake of Dawn of the Dead to kind of thank, I believe, in some ways, for this kind of resurgence over the last 10, 15 years of the zombie genre. I mean, because these movies came out and did well, and kind of propped it up.
The only thing I can think of before that would have been Resident Evil games, because there was that definitely resuscitated zombies for a while.
Yeah,
especially within the video gaming industry, and then hell, even Romero himself was, I think, attached to the first Resident Evil movie at one time, and then that fell through for whatever reason, I forget now. And then beyond that, I think it was then you have 28 Days Later and Dawn of the Dead remake, and then of course Walking Dead, and just zombies were oversaturated by that point. As far as some of the the weaker zombie movies that would follow.
Yeah.
Everybody, as soon as you got something popular out like that, you got all the knockoff movies that come and they inundate the market. So. at one point you could hardly find zombies, and then they were everywhere.
This movie was obviously filmed in England, which they definitely do a really good job of using the city and the landscape and everything in this movie to really bring it home. Like, man, some big time shit has gone down here. It'd be interesting to do a deeper dive into like how they shot some of that. I mean, considering like they're all over London, like with empty streets and stuff like that, you know.
Oh yeah, right there and I think I do remember. I got a DVD of it. I don't remember if this DVD I have now has both 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later on the same set, so I don't remember if this one has special features, but I do remember watching something about that, about the shooting of those street scenes in London and how they had to shut some stuff down, right, for that.
Definitely.
Yeah, what I was reading was they shot a lot of it like on a Sunday morning between 7 and 9, and police had to kind of gradually like let traffic through. They used about 10 cameras and was able to get about 1 minute of usable footage.
Wow.
Well, however they went about it, man, I mean, they did a great job with it.
It worked, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if that 1 minute, they edited it right to where it felt, I mean, you get the sense that this place is abandoned. I mean, set dressing was perfect, too, with the overturned cars here, there's garbage everywhere.
Although there is the criticism to be made, at least in my mind, of like, if something like this were to really happen, would everything be so clean and empty like that? You know, like, for the most...
one thing, I know that there wouldn't have been those grocery stores that they go into that were perfectly well stocked still. Those things would have been ransacked.
Oh, yeah, especially that one in particular when they have, like, the shopping, the supermarket sweep, shopping spree. Yeah, I mean,
there would not have been a bunch of those. Like, I seriously doubt there would have been some unopened Pepsi cans laying around that Pepsi machine either. Those would have been gone a long time ago, too, because that guy mentioned, and we'll get to it, that it hasn't rained since this happened either, you know.
And now we can speak for sure that this is bullshit because we know the toilet paper would be gone.
Yes, yeah.
We know this movie's straight bullshit now. We've had a small taste.
I think as far as like stuff being stocked up, I mean, I think that kind of speaks to the way that this infection travels, though.
True,
like,
it's very
not
fast.
Like a slow-moving thing.
You're right.
It's like you turn within like 10 seconds, it seems.
Yeah,
true. Yeah,
it's very fast, and they did like he picks up like a newspaper or something, and it says evacuation or something like they evacuated the city. So I guess that's but you'd think there'd be more laying around. That's all I'm saying. You know, like and this. Like you said, it spreads so fast, they wouldn't be able to contain it. There'd be bodies and these people infected with this shit just running around everywhere. You wouldn't be able to contain it, you know? So, like, it'd be a fucking mess. And they evacuate the city. All right, where'd they all go? I mean, that means there's some place where all these things went, right? Or all these people went. So, I don't know. It's just that part of it, it's kind of like, I don't know. I think it'd be a little more messier and there'd be more bodies and people laying around with this fast-acting infection, this virus, but whatever.
Oh yeah, that's true. You would think there definitely would have been corpses laying around because I mean they're easy to kill. You don't have to. It's not like zombies where you got to shoot them in the head. A Romero-style zombie, you kill them any way you do any other human.
Yeah, so I mean there'd be bodies everywhere, and like I said, it's such a small amount of time too. This is only 28 days later, right? This is only a month, so or a little less than a month, so. They wouldn't even have time to have disposed of any of these bodies or anything. So they'd just be like, kill. It'd just be mass chaos. Just kill them because they're infected. And they'd just be laying everywhere. It'd be a fucking mess. But, if that's all the only nit you can pick, then so be it. That's otherwise.
But yeah, it definitely looks great, though, the way London abandoned right there in the heart of London.
It's crazy.
Is a striking image.
And later on in the movie, when they go to Manchester and it's burning, you see it off in the distance. It just caught on fire and there's no one there to stop it, so the whole fucking city's burning. That once again, that'd be realistic. That'd be the way it would go for sure. It looks like the budget for this movie was give or take about $8 million, but it ended up grossing about 82, almost $83 million. 82.7, so it did very well. It opened up number 4 that weekend that it opened. Here, I'll give you the top 10 that particular weekend. It got smoked by another new picture opening up that week at number 1, Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. Then number 2 was Hulk, the second week of Hulk. Remember the first one with Eric Bana and You know, the one that people like to forget happened, the first Hulk movie.
Oh yeah, that's the one. I can't remember the director. Who's the director's name?
Oh shoot,
Lee, right?
Ang Lee.
Ang Lee. Yep. It's Ang Lee's Hulk. Yep. The fifth week at number 3 of Finding Nemo. Then at number 4 that week was 28 Days Later, and it made a little over $10 million opening weekend, which it made all of its budget back in a little extra right there in the first week. So you know, I'm sure they were happy about that. Number 5, Too Fast, Too Furious. Now there's been 45 Fast and Furious movies since then, so this was the second,
including the one that's delayed because of COVID.
Yeah. It was number 5 that week. Number 6 that week was another huge blockbuster, Bruce Almighty, the Jim Carrey movie. It was in its 6th week, and at that point it made $221 million. So it was, without question, a fucking hit. Number 7 that week was The Italian Job. Number 8, Rugrats Go Wild. Number 9, Hollywood Homicide. And then number 10, Alex and Emma. You got me on that one. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. That one.
Not much horror unless Rugrats Go Wild qualifies.
I actually was surprised to hear that was Rugrats movie was that year. You know, that it was still that late.
Yeah. Sometimes your timeline view of things gets thrown off. You're like, wow, really? Even that. I'll go a little bit further down the list. Dumb and Dumberer, When Harry Met Lloyd. That was like the one that didn't have anything to do with Jim Carrey, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Total different actors.
It was like a prequel.
X-Men 2 was still out. It was obviously about to fall off the list, though. It was at number 15. One of Willie's favorite movies, From Justin to Kelly, that was still out.
Yay!
And Bend It Like Beckham. There's another one. I'm just I'm looking down through here to see if there's any other horror. Okay, the first Wrong Turn movie.
Oh, okay.
That was still playing at the time. It's about all I'm seeing right away. So I guess it was another one of those little dry period horror movies. You know, not a lot playing all at once. But this was the summer. You know, the middle of the summer here. So the big blockbusters were playing, like Charlie's Angels and Hulk and Finding Nemo and all that stuff. So horror usually doesn't play too big that time of year, really.
Yeah, they kind of save it for the fall or the beginning of the year or midpoint and to the end.
But yeah, it did end up grossing $82.7 million, so it's a success, no doubt about that, and which obviously led to them making another one eventually 28 weeks later. Came out in 2007, like basically around May of 2007, so it only took them a few years, and that one wasn't as successful. It made $65 million, so it's still pretty good, just not as successful as the first. Which I'm sure.
I actually haven't seen that one yet. I mean, I bought the disc that it came on. I think I'd started watching it at one point way back when, and I don't know why I just never got back to it. It's not that I just hated it or anything. I just never got to finish it.
If I recall, that was another one that I went to the movie theater and saw when it came out because I liked 28 Days Later so much. But if I recall, it was pretty good. Just not quite as good as this one.
But was it Danny Boyle though, right? It was somebody else, or was it Danny Boyle? That one? I can't remember.
Hold on, I can look it up real quick. I don't think so, but I could be
pretty
wrong.
sure it was somebody else, right? I think it was.
Juan Carlos
Bendejo. Juan Carlos Fresnadillo. And that one follows a different set of people and everything from the first one, but it's if I recall, it's still pretty good. It's just not quite as good as 28 Days Later. But I
remember hearing them talking about it. I don't know if this was just speculation or whatever, or if they actually had planned on doing it, but like 28 years later as well.
Yeah, I mean, they could. I mean, like, they did 28 days, 28 weeks. You could technically do at least a couple more, right? Do like 28 months. And then do 28 years.
Or maybe it was months and then years.
Yeah.
Or that was the initial plan, but it might be that, 28 weeks later didn't do as well as they thought at the box office, so probably killed it right there.
Yeah. Although, like I said,
the prequel 28 minutes later.
Yeah, all it is him lying there naked, and he just doesn't get up or anything. And it ends.
And didn't know that's when they do 28 seconds later, where it's just a shot of him butt naked laying there, and then that's
it. That's the prequel. It's a short film, theatrical release and everything.
Well, let's face it, you get down to that point, that's about all we'd want to see of it anyways. All right,
I don't know. You can speak for yourself.
I'm done. Nothing to say to that. No clever response to dig me out of this hole that clearly found myself in.
No.
Get you what?
That's it. You know what? I retire. I quit. Well, that's it for the All American Spook Show. Hope you had fun, assholes. Peace. So yeah, this one, like we went into, it's directed by Danny Boyle. It's written by Alex Garland, who, based on IMDb, is known for Ex Machina, or he's the writer of Ex Machina, Annihilation. You know, that came out a couple years ago, and
I like that one.
He wrote a movie called Never Let Me Go back in 2010. So he's had a little bit of success for sure. I definitely liked Annihilation, although that movie's weird as shit.
Yeah, I like that one a lot too. And Ex Machina, I've heard a lot about, but just never. And I bought it again. It's another one of those that we own, but haven't gotten around to watching.
Yeah, same here. Like, well, I didn't buy it, but like I've never seen it, but I've seen it around, like it's a thing. You know, like I need to get to that, and I haven't watched it yet. Back to 28 Days Later, it stars Cillian Murphy as Jim. He's the main character of the movie. He's probably also the most well-known. He's best known for this. He was in Inception, the movie Red Eye. He plays the Scarecrow in The Dark Knight. So needless to say, he's had quite a good run, and he's basically started in the late 90s. Cold Mountain, Batman Begins. Once again, he's the Scarecrow, Dr. Jonathan Crane in that, and then eventually he's in The Dark Knight with the same character. Sunshine, Inception, which he's one of many in that movie. I mean, that's an awesome movie right there. I haven't seen it in a while, but I need to go back and...
One of my favorite movies right there.
Yeah. I'd say that'd make a lot of people's list. That's a damn good movie. See, he was also in The Dark Knight Rises, so he played the Scarecrow in all three of those movies. Transcendence, Anthropod. I don't know how the hell, I've never heard of that one, but it sounds like something that'd be in our wheelhouse.
Yeah. Was that before? That's before?
No, this is years later. This is 2016. Something called Anthropod or Anthropod, something like that. He was also in Dunkirk, so he's clearly got a connection with Christopher Nolan there because he's been in a handful of his movies, and he's also more currently in a Quiet Place Part 2, which I think that was one of the movies that got postponed due to the COVID-19, right? Yeah. So eventually we'll all get to see him in that, but he's got a big part in that one, so he's definitely been around the block, and I'd say without question probably the biggest star in this movie.
Well, kind of like. Parlay off of that, he actually wasn't the first guy picked for this movie. Ewan McGregor was actually supposed to play Jim.
I mean, he's a great actor. He would have done a good job with it too.
Yeah.
And there's that Danny Boyle connection.
Yep.
From
him and Danny Boyle had a falling out over the movie The Beach, and McGregor was replaced by Leonardo DiCaprio.
For 28 Days Later or The Beach?
For The Beach.
Okay, yeah, okay.
And then, let's see.
He was in Trainspotting too, right, Ewan McGregor? Didn't he?
Yeah, they've worked out their differences.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And then it says, after that didn't work out, the role was offered to Ryan Gosling, who had a scheduling conflict.
You talking
I can't make out...
You talking about the role of Jim,
I can't make out
right?
whether it's The Beach or 28 Days Later.
Because it makes more sense for The Beach as opposed to 28 Days Later, but whatever. I mean, I guess it could.
Yeah.
Once again, another good actor, so either way it would have been fine. It also stars Naomi Harris as Selena. She's the girl that finds him in the city and helps him out. She is best known for this and the movie Moonlight, which I believe won like Best Picture. I know it won some Oscars a couple years ago. Skyfall. She's in one of the Bond movies. And another movie called Collateral Beauty Madeline. Never heard of that one, but I guess it has some acclaim. Southpaw, number of other things. One of the Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, Miami Vice, that movie. So I mean, she's been around, plenty of TV shows, and she's been at it since the '80s. Believe it or not. She was in a TV series called Simon and the Witch in 1987. So she's been at it for a while. I'm assuming she must have been pretty young doing that back then, because
when a kid back then.
It must have been, because I mean she doesn't look very old to me. I don't have her age here, but yeah. Brendan Gleeson as Frank. He's the dad of the girl named Hannah that they come across, and kind of they're with them through the rest of the movie. They find each other in the city, and they're there through the rest of the movie. He's best known. He's been in a ton of TV shows and movies, but he's best known of a movie called The Guard, A movie called Cavalry in Bruges, Cold Mountain. According to IMDb, he has 101 credits. I mean, he's been in a ton of things, going all the way back to TV movies in the late 80s and early 90s.
So, he was in some of the Harry Potter movies.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Far and Away. Yeah, just...
As was Warwick Davis from the last episode, Leprechaun. In Harry Potter movie. Well, Harry Potter movies. He was one of the bankers in Green Gots or something.
So...
Double connection.
The old Leprechaun connection.
Yeah, yeah.
That should be our new bit, trying to find all connections to Leprechaun. 6 degrees.
The new Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, 6 degrees.
6 degrees of Leprechaun. Yeah.
I mean, look, there's what we say, 8 of those movies, so it shouldn't be too hard to
probably
make some connection to one of those fucking movies. It also stars Christopher Eccleston as Major Henry West. He's the leader of the army.
Yes.
The army.
I didn't look it up to see who all these people were in there, but I you know how somebody pops in your head and you're like, you can't figure out, like, what the hell do I know him from? I guess because he was younger or something, I don't know, but because he was Doctor Who and the Doctor and whenever that came back, the first the new Doctor Who season.
the new rebirth of the Doctor Who, the new series from 2005. He plays the Doctor only in that first season and then bails out. You'd also know him from everyone's favorite Marvel movie, Thor 2, The Dark World. He's Malekith in that movie, which that has to be like the between Thor 2 and Iron Man 3, like the two Marvel movies that everybody shits on. You know, when you see any list or anyone say like, well, everybody loves Marvel movies, but what's the worst? Thor 2 and Iron Man 3 are always on that list. And I've seen some things about him and Doctor Who, like apparently he wanted to keep doing it, but like they were having creative differences or something, so that's why they changed up and had took him away from the Doctor after one season and all that.
Yeah,
it was a whole thing.
He was a good one too. I liked his season of the Doctor. He's like the first of the like sort of brass balls doctors. I guess. You just kind of like you could liken them to Captain Kirk in Star Trek versus Picard. So.
Yeah, just as an actor, he has a serious edge to him. Like kind of a this dude might lose his mind and kill somebody kind of edge to him. So like. Yeah, it would have been interesting to see how that would have played out after, a few seasons of him playing the Doctor. And that's been our Doctor Who Minute here on the All-American Spookshow. But he's been in a ton of things. Like, he was in the remake of Gone in 60 Seconds, from 2000. He was in The Others. Tons of stuff. TV movies, TV shows, just random things that... I didn't even know. I'd see this, the League of Gentlemen. Okay, I was thinking of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
League of Extraordinary.
Yeah, it's because it's a TV series. I never heard of it. I was like, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen had a TV show. So yeah, those were what you would know. Those are probably the best known, higher build actors in this movie. There's a few other faces you might recognize from other things, but those are the main ones. And of course, the teenage girl Hannah is played by Megan Burns. This is probably about the only thing you'd know her from. Honestly, because she's only got, good Lord. Yeah, this would be the only thing you know her from, because she only has 3 acting credits. Some movie called Liam, when she was a little younger, 28 Days Later, and then a short film called Intruders. That's it. So apparently she must have found something better to do with her time after making 28 Days Later. I thought she would, she's not really great in this movie, but she's, she's fine, so you would think that she would have found something else.
Oh, yeah.
Other roles, but apparently not. So, Will, this obviously isn't the first time you saw it. Can you go back, like, what were your initial reactions when you went and saw it?
I remember enjoying it, but, yeah, this one was so long ago. Like, I remember enjoying it, but that's really about it.
Did you say y'all both saw it in the theater, though?
Yeah. I know I did, and there's a good chance me and him probably saw it together. I mean, back then we'd go see just about everything all the time, so there's a good chance we saw it together. But I know I can speak for myself. I definitely saw it in the theater.
Yeah, I think I was actually. What year was it? It said this came out in
June of 2003. No, 2003.
2003. Okay, so yeah, I was there at the station, still working up there at Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
I had already been there since '99. Yeah, so I was there, and I did see it in the theater. too back then, and I remember liking it. And then, of course, whenever Walking Dead came out, that correlation, I put that together right there. Like, oh, this seems very familiar. As far as when that comic came out, I didn't buy Walking Dead issue by issue. I bought I think the trade paperback, the first trade paperback collected the first few issues when I first got into it, I guess. And I remember reading that part of it. I'm like, damn, this is straight up like 28 Days Later right here. I mean, of course, it goes off on its own. And then when I was watching it this time around, I watched it. Me and my wife watched it, and this is the first time she saw it. And she said something that was kind of like made sense to me. Is like she goes, I would have liked this movie even more had I seen it back when it first came out. Meaning that Walking Dead, not that it correlates directly with Walking Dead, but when Walking Dead came out and that whole glut of other zombie movies that followed suit, some good, some a lot of bad ones, whatever. There's a lot in there where it could kind of lessen the impact of this movie, I guess you could say.
For sure.
So
how in the world?
It's been a long time since I've seen it.
How in the world?
I can see where she's coming from with that, even though I still love it.
How in the world is knowing that your wife loves these kinds of movies? How in the world has she gone this long without seeing this one?
It's just, I know. This is one of those things where it just ended up happening that way. There's a few, or there's probably a lot like that for me too. As far as I can't remember what it was we were talking. We were talking about one of them. Like y'all couldn't believe I hadn't seen that one either. I don't remember what it was now. One of the earlier episodes we were talking about it. But yeah, this is just one of those ones that just got by her, and I mean she knew all about it, but just never got around to watching it until now.
Not to say this is Star Wars, but it's almost like saying like you haven't seen Star Wars. What when you love this kind of movie, you think this would be one of those ones that you would have came across at some point in the last 17 years or however long it's been. I guess sometimes it happens like that though. It's like I'll watch that eventually, and then back burner, and then all of a sudden it's 50 years later.
Yeah, but yeah, I get the point completely. Like if I had not seen this until now, I could see it being that way. Like, okay, first of all, I've seen this opening. I've seen it in Walking Dead. I've seen some of the other, say, the running zombie, even though they're not zombies technically. But I mean, you got the Dawn of the Dead remake that came out afterwards, and all the things in between. So yeah, I could see how it would lessen the impact of it. And it kind of did for me watching it this time around. I just, when she mentioned that, I saw where she was coming from. I just didn't put it in words until she'd said that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's probably what it is. It's not that I like it any less than I liked it before, but a lot of stuff has come out since that makes some of the scenes seem not as impactful, I guess, as they were when you first see them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can think of a direct comparison to the point you're making of what we've done here on the Spook Show a handful of episodes back at Christmas when we did Black Christmas. Will, you pretty much said the same thing about that movie, right? Like, you could see the comparisons. Like, you would have probably enjoyed it more if you'd have seen it before all these other ones, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, there were so many like straight lines to like Scream. I Know What You Did Last Summer. And all those type of movies. But since I had seen all those, then going back and watching that movie, like it's kind of hard to like take it from it being like the originator of them. Mm-hmm. And I've already seen all these, and probably to a much gorier scale.
I'm just looking at something here, while you guys were chatting on that. This movie come out kind of, like we said, reinvigorated the zombie genre. This helped, along with Dawn of the Dead, the remake of Dawn of the Dead. As well, it says here on Wikipedia, as well as increasing the popularity of fast-moving zombies, such as Dan O'Bannon's The Return of the Living Dead.
I was going to mention that, but we started talking about something else, that people were complaining about running zombies and everything, and me personally too. I'm more of a slow-moving zombie kind of guy. As far as I bet I don't hate on fast-moving zombies, but people seem to forget to mention that Return of the Living Dead had running zombies in it. I mean, they didn't always run, but a lot of the scenes they did. You remember they tackled those guys, like paramedics or whatever, and stuff. So
like even
that's the first movie I could think of with running zombies.
Even Tarman.
Yeah.
More brains. And then he
and nobody said anything about it back then either, though. There was no big deal. Like, oh, these zombies are running, whereas, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead, they're not running. There was no debate.
Obviously these things are kind of opinion, but it says Return of the Living Dead featured the first example of quote-unquote fast zombies in cinema. The concept was largely neglected in media until after the release of 28 Days Later. So I guess you can kind of say it almost like legitimized the fast zombie, idea, or however you want to put it, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, it just goes back to what we were saying, like, that's just all kind of in like how you like your genre, right?
Yep. And I even think I can remember one that I have to look into this. I think there's one that's even before Return of the Living Dead that featured fast-moving zombies, and actually they may have been contaminated technically and not been zombies. The City of the Walking Dead was the VHS title I remember back in the day. There was Nightmare City. I think Nightmare City is the new DVD release title, and it's an Italian zombie movie from like early '80s or sometime before Return of the Living Dead, '83 maybe. We're gonna put a pin in that one to look that up because I'm pretty sure that had running zombies, and they may have actually not been zombies and been infected with a virus as well. So, Nightmare City. To look that one up.
One last little thing I see here on Wikipedia, it says in a 2017 poll of 150 actors, directors, writers, producers, and critics for Time Out magazine, they ranked this movie the 97th best British film ever made. So that's pretty high acclaim for this type of movie. But that's pretty impressive for sure. And they make such a good use of the landscape and everything. Like it's very British for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And the cinematography is just awesome too. It's Danny Boyle, so you kind of expect that. But just
and the
contrast from
the soundtrack too,
that
man.
One scene. The soundtrack, yeah, exactly. Yep.
Especially in the last 10 or 15 minutes of the movie, where that's maybe like the last 10 minutes or so, where it's really like that soundtrack really ramps it up, man. Like if you're paying attention to it.
Oh yeah.
Like the music starts down here and goes way up here. Like it ratchets up the mood of everything slowly as you're building. Almost to a crescendo of what happens there towards the end. Yeah, it's just wonderfully done. That's
kind of almost like sound design.
Yeah,
mixed with the soundtrack itself.
Yeah. For you, the listeners of the All American Spook Show podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. You go sign up, do the 30-day free trial. They give you like a credit. You can go pick any audiobook you want. That book's yours. You get to keep it, even if you cancel it right after that, or at the end of the 30 days. That one book that you get is yours to keep for free. So it's a pretty sweet deal. Right now, I'm just looking at like some of the top books in the sci-fi fantasy category. You've got The Stand by Stephen King. Of course, that's probably that high because of what's going on right now in the world. The Chronicles of Narnia adult box set. I don't know what the hell. I can't explain that one, but whatever. The Fellowship of the Ring. Of course, J.R.R. Tolkien's classic. The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski. I don't know. Dune by Frank Herbert. Once again, kind of timely, I guess, in a way. 1984 by George Orwell. Some of these are kind of random. It's funny. But The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. The Rise of Skywalker Expanded Edition by Ray Carson. I think that's like basically the novelization of the latest Star Wars, the movie, The Rise of Skywalker, where it kind of explains things a little deeper than, say, like, the movie does, where it's actually telling you what's going on. Smoke Bitten by Patricia Briggs. So that's a favorite of Professor Smoke there. And, a handful of others. So you'll definitely enjoy checking it out. And, it's audiobooks. So some of them, especially like we've pointed out before, like the Star Wars books have like sound effects and stuff. I don't think that's fairly common with a lot of audiobooks, but still pretty cool little thing with the Star Wars books. And I think the Stephen King books are always pretty good. Like, they're narrated well. So yeah, go check that out and download your free audiobook today. So you want to go to audibletrial.com/spookshow. Again, that's audibletrial.com/spookshow for your free audiobook.
It's intermission, it's intermission. It's intermission, it's intermission. Ice cream, candy, lemonade too. And there's a hot dog waiting for you.
The popcorn's popping and it's ready to go. All the great food is stealing the show.
Get up out your seat and get yourself a tasty treat down at the snack bar. Snack bar.
All right, guys. So I guess with all the money making out of the way, we can get into the actual movie itself. 28 Days Later. So it begins with a video of riots. Like you see riots going on all over the world, and they're being played on TVs. And then it pulls back. You realize it's like this monkey tied down to a table with like a like a little cap on its head or whatever, and they're like forcing it to watch all these horrible images. And it's at a place called the Cambridge Primate Research Center. Then some animal activists break in to, I guess, to get pictures of the monkeys and to free them or whatever. Then the scientist comes in and they grab a hold of them, and he's like, "Look, you can't let these monkeys loose, or don't mess with them because they're infected with a highly contagious virus called rage." And they're basically, yeah, fuck off. And of course, the girl that's with them, she opens up a cage, and as soon as she does, like, one jumps out and starts attacking her, and it's like it's saliva or blood or whatever is getting all over the woman, and then she gets it, bam, just like that. The virus rages loose. Then it says on the screen 28 days later. Then you're introduced to Jim, the main character, who wakes up butt-ass naked, which we referred to a couple of times already. He's a hog in the wind.
Multiple times.
He's just laying there, and he wakes up and doesn't realize what the fuck's going on, and he realizes he's in a hospital completely alone. Then he leaves the hospital, and he puts some clothes on, grabs like a couple cans of soda or whatever and some snacks, and leaves the hospital. And then he's looking around, and London is completely empty. And there's a long scene, cut scene, or not cut scene, but a long scene here of him just walking through random parts of London that are just fucking empty. No one's around. Which, like we referred to, is beautifully shot and edited together. Really, really well done. Then he goes inside of a church, and on the wall, like as he's walking into the church and past it, it says the end is extremely fucking nigh, like written in blood or something on the wall inside the church. He goes into the main sanctuary of the church, and he sees there's probably at least 50 to 100 bodies just kind of laying around in the sanctuary of the church, and he's just kind of standing there looking at it, and he says hello, and then all of a sudden 2 or 3 of them stand up and look at him like, huh, like he's
with the most peculiar face.
Yeah. Almost a zombie-ish look. Then you just hear someone running, you can hear steps, boom, 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 coming up, because he's at the top of the sanctuary. And then the doors fly open, and there's a priest, acting all wacky and kind of, the way they all kind of quickly move and gyrate and stuff in this movie.
Yeah, kind of jittery, sort of.
Yeah,
it's they can't, move fluidly.
It's almost like something else is controlling them, kind of. So they're kind of, quick movements and stuff. And he comes running the priest comes running at Jim, and he hits him, and then he's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, and then runs away. And then of course there's 3 or 4 of them chasing after him now, as he's left the church. And then all of a sudden 2 other people show up, and they start throwing Molotov cocktails at the infected, and catch them on fire. And then they've got this gas station rigged up, I guess, to where they set something off, and it basically just blows the whole fucking thing up. Once again, another cool, well done scene.
Oh yeah,
of
that wide shot of the gas station just blowing up.
Yeah. Although it's probably overkill, just to kill a few of these things, but whatever. And
it's not going to attract more.
Yeah, of course not. And it's also not going to burn London to the ground, because there's no one there to take care of it anymore. So then right after this, you realize that it's 2 characters named Selena and Mark, and they take them to their little hideout. They have a little I guess it's a candy machine room or something that has like in a subway or transit station that has a pull down gate. So I guess they've been hanging out in there and just eating out of the machines or whatever. They take him there, and they kind of catch him up on what's been happening. This virus, as soon as you get any blood or saliva on you, you've got it and you're fucked. You have what they say, 10 to 20 seconds to kill you once you get it.
I guess it's got to get into something, right? Like your eye, nose, mouth, or open wound or something like it.
Yeah. And like I said before, it seems like their whole purpose of life, once to get this, is just to give it to someone else. They're not trying to eat, your normal zombie, they're not trying to eat you or anything. It's just they just want you to have it. So they run after you and they come at you trying to give you this shit.
I think I read somewhere that the whole rage thing was kind of based off of Ebola. Just like the ease of transfer.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can see that. You know, like it's comparable. You know, into what I know about it. You know, but just how fast I think is one of the creepier aspects of the film. You know, and in the way they go about it. Like, man, like you ain't got no time to fucking deal with it. You know, there's no goodbyes or anything. Like as soon as you get it, man, you're toast. You know.
Yeah, it's not like the zombie virus where it's, you know, you never know, depending on the movie and everything, it could be
you get bit
hours later or it could be days later.
Yeah. Yeah, you get bit or whatever, you know, you're infected. And it generally, like I know at least in The Walking Dead, it's like you get something and you basically die from the infection and then you're reanimated. There's no real explanation as to how this is happening, right? Just that, you know, now this shit's in the air, and if you die, you're going to come back.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, are you talking about this movie or The Walking Dead?
28 days later?
No, in The Walking Dead.
Oh, in The Walking Dead? Okay.
Yeah, like, there's no explanation.
Like, in the air and yeah,
like, you die, you're coming back. You know, and
everybody's affected.
Unless they take out your brain or something, you're coming back. So what I mean, like, comparing it to this is much more, more horrible, in my opinion, because you got no time to act. Like, you get it, you're fucked. You know, like
it's happening within seconds. Yeah.
So they kind of catch them up to what's going on here in like the world, and they said like, my parents are dead. You know, so are yours. They said, well, I want to go find them. So the next day they head out to find Jim's parents, and of course they go to their house and they find him, but they go upstairs and he finds them dead, and they're holding on to a picture of him, you know, when he's like a boy, and it says something on the back like, we left you sleeping. Now we're going to join you, and we're going to sleep with you. Don't wake up.
Don't wake up.
Which is a pretty fucked up message to, you know, that your kid eventually finds this. Like, damn.
Who are you writing that for?
I know, that's what I'm thinking too. Like, like, how if he finds this, he's going to be fucked. You know, he's like, oh my God, this is horrible. You should have just not even left a note, you know.
You're right, but I guess it's like, I guess it's just like, just in case he does wake up and he comes and looks for us. Let's leave him with this haunting message.
To go with our rotting faces.
Yeah. Finding us dead and pretty much naked in the bed isn't bad enough. Here's a note. So there's that. Hold on, I kind of lost my...
Now, what you didn't see is at the bottom of that note, by the way, cover up your piece.
Yeah, see, that's the real thing. Like, whenever you woke up in the hospital, the first thing I would think of if I woke up in that situation is, why am I naked? If I didn't go to bed like this, whatever happened to me.
Well, you know, I mean, I guess you could explain it if you're going to go this deep. When you're in a hospital, right? You're usually naked, wearing a gown, right? I mean, if you're having most procedures, right? So, you know, maybe it's to reason that, like, he kicked his gown off or something, you know, and then by the time we catch up to him, we get the pleasure of seeing him full hog, you know, so, just saying. Meanwhile, for our UK friends, is this what is normal there in the hospitals? Like, you just lay gownless, butt naked in the hospital beds? Send us your comments and questions to allamericanspookshow@gmail.com.
No pictures, please. No pictures.
Yeah, oh, God. Here's what happened when I was in me bed in Manchester. I don't know why I went full leprechaun.
And we just lost all...
Yeah.
Because apparently they talk like pirates.
We just lost all 2 of our listeners in the UK. My bad.
Oh, you fucking Yankee bastards. We're just a bunch of Yankee bastards now.
I'm just trying to sound like one of those soldiers where he's like, did you see that? Fucking hell!
You're gonna go like full Cockney accent? You know?
Yeah. We went full native. Sorry to the ones I've offended in the United Kingdom. We enjoy you there in the European Union, and the ones that aren't. Peace and love. So yeah, so like he finds his parents dead with a picture of him as a boy in this dire fucking fucked up world. So they decide to spend the night there after this. Like, well, it's too late to go back to the eating hole, so we're gonna stay here for the night. And then he's having like this, like they're asleep. The other, you know, Mark and Selena, they're asleep, and he's kind of standing there like in the kitchen looking at pictures and like reminiscing about his parents. He's having like a little flashback scene of like him drinking all the orange juice and with his mom and dad there in the kitchen, and then just it's quiet and you're kind of in that moment, and all of a sudden just like 2 or 3 of the infected just bust in from everywhere. Like one jumps from the ceiling, another one busts through the window, like they're all over him just like that. Then during this melee, the guy Mark, he's cut like on the arm during this, and he has just like that moment of oh fuck. Then Selena comes with a machete and fucking like cuts his arm off and then kills his ass. I'm thinking at first like he's just gonna cut her. She's just gonna cut his arm off to help spread the no. She fucking hacked his shit to death.
Cold.
Yeah.
Bloody.
And she's like basically just know.
She's like I've seen Day of the Dead. This shit ain't gonna happen. Cutting your arm off ain't gonna happen.
I just happened to watch The Return of the Living Dead before this, and I know they're gonna come running at me. And then she looks at Jim and says like, yeah, but I just killed his ass cold-blooded, and if it happens to you, I'll kill you too. So she's, like you said, cold-blooded. So then they leave, and they're kind of talking back and forth about all this, and they're on their way to wherever the fuck they're going to next, and then they see some Christmas lights on like an apartment tower, like one of those like 20-story apartment towers. They see some Christmas lights blinking off in the distance. So they decide to go over there and check it out. They get there, and there's a bunch of shopping carts like stuffed in the stairwell, I guess to kind of keep people out or whatever. So they easily climb up and over them, and you'd think it'd be a bigger pain in the ass than it was, but no, just climb right over it.
Seems like it's probably more of a pain in the ass for whoever put all of them there.
Yeah, exactly, because they climb like right over it like it's nothing, and then some infected show up and climb right over it like it's nothing. So like, I don't know what the fuck this was intended to do, but it didn't do its job.
It takes absolutely no brain power.
Yeah. You can literally be on a rage virus where you're basically a zombie and still get over this shit. So then they easily climb over this, and they're chasing them up the stairs. And then this is when you're introduced to Frank and Hannah. It's a father and daughter who have holed themselves up, up in the top of this tower, or, high up in the tower. And they're living there. Frank kind of like, he's got like a police riot gear on. Which, could be another nod from The Walking Dead, right? The riot gear and all that shit. Could be another connection.
It also kind of reminded me of Dawn of the Dead a bit, too. Remember the very beginning of the original Dawn of the Dead when they go in with the gas mask, the tear gas, they're running the people out of the building or trying to?
Yeah, you're right.
The very opening of that movie kind of reminded me a little bit of that.
These can't be just completely coincidental, right? There has to be some connection to these type of nods, right, from Danny Boyle.
Yeah, I'd say so, probably.
Yeah. So that you're introduced to them like they're in their house. It's kind of an awkward situation, but they're nice. They're all on the up and up. They're not like super creepy, ready to eat you kind of people. So everything's good. So they decide to stay the night, and then they get up the next morning. They're having the conversation. They realize like, look, we just can't sustain life here. Like we can't get any water. It hasn't rained in 10 days. So they decide, they're talking about this, and then Frank plays a recorded message that's on like the radio. It's just being broadcast from somewhere, saying like, if you come here, there's the answer to the infection is here. It's like 27 miles away or something like that. So they then decide like, all right, fuck it, let's go to where this is and see if this is going to help any.
Now, that scene right there where they're talking about like taking off and they're standing out on the balcony of that apartment. I did read that scene was taped on September 11th, 2001, which obviously is the same day as the attacks on the Twin Towers and all that stuff. And I think I'd read where they were saying it was a little awkward taping that on such a sad day, and they're excited.
And it's they're on a tower too, so
yeah. Oh yeah.
That has to have a weird feeling to it, knowing what the fuck was going on in the world at the moment. So then they I guess like they established he's like the dad Frank. He's like a taxi driver, I guess, or either that or they just happen to have a taxi.
Or it was one they had stolen or something, or what commandeered or whatever.
Yeah.
After the thing went down or something.
So
I guess they never really say whether he was a taxi driver or what.
I kind of take it like he might have been.
Yeah,
but
because doesn't he say something about the meter? Like
when
they get in the car and they're heading out and he's
so you can probably
starting the meter.
So you can probably logically take that leap, but they didn't come right out and say, "Look, listen, I am a taxi driver. Here's what." Doesn't matter. Regardless, they're in a taxi.
Yeah,
and they're driving through London and everything, and then they decide instead of like going around, they're going to go down in this tunnel to get to the other side to go to to Manchester or wherever it is they're going. So he just puts the pedal to the metal and drives through there. Kind of goes through the maze and then puts the as fast as he can. He uses these cars that are in a perfect ramp situation and drives over these cars and to get to the other side. But of course they get a flat in the meantime. So they have to stop and get out and fix the flat. And of course, all of a sudden, 15, 20 infected start running down the tunnel to get to them. But but of all the people, the little girl manages to change the tire like fucking NASCAR pit crew speeds.
Well, hold on. They can't jack it up, so what do? They
pick it up.
They lift it up themselves.
Now it's somewhat unlikely, right? But in this adrenaline fueled moment, I could see 3 people being able to pick it up. Pick a car up long enough to fix it, I guess. But yeah, the whole scene's a little much, I guess. Not only them being able to pick the car up, but them holding it up long enough for a teenage girl to fix the fucking tire. Unlikely, but here we are.
Yeah.
Also, I read that I think they probably felt that they were committed to this scene because apparently it took 2 days to shoot that whole scene.
Damn.
Well, I mean, probably just having to set it up. All those cars and shit in some type of tunnel. I'm sure that wasn't a small feat for sure. So they managed to fix the flat right before the infected get there. So they fix it, drop it. They all get in and get away before any of them actually get, they jump on the car, but, just in the nick of time. So they go along and then they see a grocery store, and this is what we referred to earlier. They find this grocery store that hasn't been touched at all. Pristine, hasn't been picked over, got everything in it, grocery store. And they go in there and just have a little fun kind of shopping spree type of moment where they're all picking shit out and there's wacky music playing,
That also reminded me. Actually, there's 2 scenes back to back that I don't know if they were intentional, but kind of reminded me of other zombie or related movies. Was the tunnel scene kind of reminded me of The Stand when they have to go through the tunnel, the Lincoln Tunnel, I think it is, right?
Yeah. And
it's got that tense moment of stuff's gonna happen in the tunnel, and it is, and it does. So, and then this supermarket scene reminded me a little bit of Dawn of the Dead when they're in the mall. And there's a lot of scenes in Dawn of the Dead where they go and kind of loot whatever they need to get. But there's one in particular where they're going and running through and getting he picks up the bread. Oh, he gets this one, he gets that, and then he at the end of the scene he throws the money out on the counter or whatever. And then at the end of the scene he puts his credit card there and just leaves it on the counter as they walk out.
I tell you what, the other thing too about that scene before we move on is they're being rather selective, somewhat. I guess you'd have to be for room wise, I guess, right? You don't want to take everything, but dude, I'd be I'd grab the cart and just fucking run down and just throw everything in there, we'll sort it out later. Grab everything. No, they're looking at the labels.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, they do that and then they take out. So it's kind of a fun little scene. Eventually they come across, they're about to run out of gas, so they come across a gas truck in the way. So they stop and siphon some gas out. And Jim, there's a little building or a gas station or a garage or something nearby. Jim decides to go in there and he's looking around for some reason. Then he sees a couple of dead bodies, and then an infected boy, probably 8, 9, 10-year-old boy, jumps out and he kills the boy. And then he comes out did you find anything? Nope. So clearly this is a, one of those fucked up kind of, he's kind of losing his grip a little bit scenes. So then there's this scene where they stop on the side of the road and have a picnic. And they see some wild horses running around. So I guess it's just one of those character building. This section of the movie to me is kind of it's not entirely necessary. Kind of slows things down a little bit, but I guess it's character building kind of thing, right? So let's put this in here to kind of slow it down a little bit and get you ready for what's coming.
They're becoming a family.
Yes. And then they decide to camp out there, and they're having trouble sleeping. So Selena gives Jim and some sleeping pills, and then they give a half of one to Hannah or whatever. So then there's this whole scene where during all this where Jim's having a bad dream, and everything. So eventually they wake up the next morning and they take off. And as they're traveling to where they're going, you can see, this is what I referred to earlier, you can see Manchester in the distance burning. Like, they mentioned, like, damn, there's no one there to stop it, and then it kind of slowly pans up, and you can see it in the distance where, like, an entire city's on fire. Another one of those cool, well-done scenes. They eventually reach the blockade that they've been looking for, and they don't see anybody there. So Frank's kind of pissed at this, and he kind of goes over to his own, you know, kind of on the side to kind of pout about it, I guess, for, you know, for a little bit, and he sees a body, like, up on top of a car or truck or something, and there's a crow picking at it. So he goes over to say, like, fuck off, you know, leave the body alone. And then basically a single drop of blood drops perfectly right in Frank's eye. And this is a cool shot. You know, like, it's almost like a camera shot inside the blood drop falling straight down into his eye. And, of course, he's instantly infected. Like, he has just enough time to tell his daughter that he loves her right before he starts to snap. And Jim's got the bat, and he's coming toward him like he's about to kill him. And then all of a sudden he gets shot like 10, 15 times by some soldiers. So they drop him on the spot. And this is where you're introduced to, like, this army outfit with Major West, which is Christopher Eccleston's character. They take them all back to, like, their little base, you know, which is 10 or 15 minutes down the road. West shows Jim around and shows him that they keep like, one of his soldiers got infected, so they keep him in the back to kind of observe him. Like, what did he say? Like, he wanted to see how long it takes him to starve to death. So,
and then here's another correlation with another movie, Day of the Dead. Like, this straight up screamed Day of the Dead to me. The military style installation, even though they had other scientists and things in there in Day of the Dead. But the military was like one of the prime parts of that. And then they have Bub, you know, chained up because they were doing experiments on Bub to try and figure out what makes him tick, or what makes, you know, just trying to get what's going on with the zombie virus, see what they can learn from him. So that right there, like, definitely reminded me of Day of the Dead.
And, you know, that kind of thing would make sense, but it's just the crazy, you get the crazy vibe from these dudes, like, right out the gate, pretty much, you know. When you see this, you're like, all right, well, there's something off here, automatically. So then they have, like, this, this dinner feast where they're kind of dressed up a little bit, and, like, there's this awkward and weirdness about it. And they're just talking, you know, junk and stuff, you know, and then all of a sudden the alarms go off because some infected have, like, come into the perimeter. So all the soldiers grab their shit and they go down there and they just start laying waste to them, like shooting them. And there's, like, some landmines out there, and I think blows one of them up or something. So then once they've done this, they come back in, and one of the soldiers grabs a hold of Selena like he's, you know, I'm about to take a hold of her and rape her kind of thing. And Jim comes up and they kind of have a little fight, but it's broke up by West, and then West takes Jim into the next room or whatever and tells him that basically he's promised all of his men that he's going to give them women. So then Jim runs out, tries to grab a hold of Selena and Hannah. Of course, they knock the shit out of them, and then now you realize that they've got, you know, bad intentions here. They basically want the women for themselves, just to rape and pillage as they see fit.
And I guess start over, right? Because that one of the things they were kind of mentioning, even though they kind of glossed over, didn't really mention that.
Yeah, I guess he's kind of like, you know, the R1 charge is to kind of start things over, but repopulation, so to speak. But I think it was a little bit more nefarious than that, you know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
They just wanted to have a couple of chicks that they could just do whatever they wanted to with, you know, at any time. So then they lock Jim up. There's one soldier that kind of has his head on his shoulders, so, like, a little bit. Like, he's still acting kind of fucking like he's lost his rocker a little bit too, but I guess he's got better morals, you know. He still has his morality left, so he kind of stood up for him, like, no, you're not doing this. No, no, fuck you. They beat the shit out of him and lock him up too. So Jim's locked up with him, and, you know, they're kind of having a conversation. Then they eventually come and they take them both, Jim and the soldier, they take them both, like, you know, out in the woods somewhere, and they're about to execute them. They do manage to execute the soldier. They kill him. But then, kind of in the melee, Jim is able to run away. As running away, he falls over in the woods and looks up and he sees, like, a jet or a plane. I'm assuming it's like a jet, right? Like, flying very high up in the sky. You know how you see him with the
contrails?
Yeah, with the contrails, yeah. So, like, he's way up there and he's like, huh? You know. So then, like, back at the house, a couple of the soldiers are in there with Hannah and Selena. Like, the major says you need to be all properly dressed. So, like, they're going to force them to strip and put, like, you know, some nice dresses on or whatever. And then Selena kind of takes charge of the situation and says, leave us alone in here. I'll help her get ready. Then when they leave, she tries to give Hannah some drugs. So basically, you know, that she's kind of out of it as this is going to happen. So basically, like, you know, you won't fight back kind of let it happen, but you won't know what's going on, kind of thing. But they come in and kind of stop her from doing it, or I guess maybe they didn't. I don't know. I guess she does take the drugs. I'm not sure if she took them right there or later.
I don't know if they thought that they were gonna like committing suicide or something. The soldiers, I don't know if they thought that's what they were doing. But taking the pills.
But right after this, Hannah does kind of get high. So like, is this the moment that she takes them, or is it like a little bit later on? I just missed that.
I guess she. Yeah, I guess I take it to where the soldiers came in there and maybe she'd already ingested one or something.
She'd already got it in. Yeah. So then, right at that same moment, an alarm goes off back at the the original blockade, the thing that brought them there. It turns out it's Jim, like, cranking the alarm there at the blockade to bring them out. So Wes takes a couple of them out there. Jim manages to like fucking Rambo. He turns into Rambo all of a sudden, and he's taking out these soldiers like one by one. He takes out one of them, eventually sicks some of the infected on West, and then West runs away in the rain. Like, it's by this point now, like, it's pouring down rain too. I should mention, like, there's a storm done came in. So it's pouring down rain, like, pretty much from here to the rest of the movie. Jim comes back to the house and then goes in and lets that infected soldier that they had for observation, he lets him loose. So now this dude's loose in the house. So now Hannah is drugged, and like she's sitting there like under guard from a couple of the soldiers, and she's just talking straight shit, like, we're going to die, you're going to die next, She just doesn't care, so she's just talking shit. So then right at that moment, the infected soldier that Jim let loose busts in. And then the girls manage to run away. And, of course, that one infects another soldier. So now you got like 2 or 3 of these guys running around infected inside the house. Then eventually Jim killed, like, there's like one soldier that's kind of a goofy, cowardly kind of dude. That dude runs in and Jim manages to kill him with the bayonet. Like, he stabs him and then like leaves the gun hanging in him as he falls over with the bayonet sticking in his chest. There's eventually a scene where like Hannah is hiding behind a mirror. Like, one of the infected soldiers runs in. And she's hiding perfectly behind the mirror, and the guy's kind of like staring at the mirror at himself. And but he runs away, so she manages to dodge him. Jim finds Selena with the soldier. Like, one soldier like won't give her up. Like, he's obsessed with Selena, so he's kind of staying on her. Jim finds him with her, and then he attacks the dude, and then like fucking just pummels him, and then gets him down on the ground and like gouges his eyes out with his thumbs. Like, pretty brutal little scene, right? So Selena grabs a hold of the machete, which is like laying on the bed, and like she's about to get Jim because she thinks he's infected, like the way he was acting. But then she stops short and realizes, like, no, he's not infected. He's just, fucking snapped and did what he needed to do. So then right at that moment, like, they're kind of having a nice little moment. Then Hannah runs in and like busts like a glass vase over Jim's head or something because she thinks he's infected.
She thought he was infected too.
Yeah. They leave the building and then they get out to the car. They open up the taxi, and then West is sitting in the car, and he says something like, you killed my boys or something like that, and then shoots Jim. Then Hannah jumps in, or she's already in the car, like about to drive when that happens. So she just drives off with West and then backs back into the house, like through the front door. And then the infected dude, right on time, busts out the back windshield and grabs West out and drags him back into the house as she drives away. So very well timed on Hannah's part. So then they go in there, of course, and, they fuck West up. He's done. The front gates are locked, so they just drive straight through them, and then there's like a freeze frame. Like, he's like, drive through them, and as soon as she drives through it, it freezes. Then you see the words 28 days later on the screen. Jim wakes up again. At least this time he's not full nude again. And Selena's like sitting in the next room, like sewing some sheets together. And then as it turns out, like, all 3 of them are like laying out these sheets, and it says the word hello, and then a jet screams by and sees this, and then the end. That's the credits. Now, did you watch it all the way to the end, though?
Yes.
Post credits?
No, I didn't watch it this time all the way to the end.
All right, so post credits. It comes up and it says, what if? Like, ... what if? Basically, it takes you right back to that scene after, like, they've dealt with West and they take off, right? They take Jim to a hospital where they're trying to, where he's been shot. They try everything they can, and then Jim dies on the table. And then Hannah says to Selena, what are we going to do now? And Selena says, we live. And then they walk out, and the door's closed. The end. So
that was the more depressing ending, right?
Yeah, so you've got the extremely happy, hey, they made it out and someone came to save them, and then there's the fuck, that was dark and bleak.
Was it like that originally? I don't know. I don't remember I guess what happened is they shot it both ways, and then went with the happy ending to be the prime ending, I guess, and then the what if world. But a lot of times I've seen that with other movies on a special feature, they'll have the ending shot one way, and for whatever reason, whether it be a test audience or the distributor, producer, whatever, they change it, and so then they'll have the alternate ending as a special feature.
Yeah.
So this way, they kind of like incorporated both endings in the movie, which is pretty cool.
Now I'm going to read this straight off Wikipedia. The DVD extras include 3 alternative endings, all of which conclude with Jim dying. 2 were filmed, while the third, a more radical departure, was presented only in storyboards. The U.S. cinematic release, which is here in the United States in the theaters, included one of the alternative endings after the film's credits in response to intense online debates over whether or not it was a more appropriate conclusion than the official ending. One of the alternate endings was also added in the after the credits and airings from Sky Movies, so I guess that's in the UK or whatever. So yeah, I guess I have to go back and check out I've got the DVD. I didn't watch all that, but I guess I need to go back and see what the other alternative endings were. But they were all more dire than the actual
even
ending.
In the other one.
Yeah. So I guess that's it for 28 Days Later. Will, what's your star rating on this one?
I enjoyed it. I liked it the first time I saw it. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go with about 3 3/4.
Solid. Professor, where are you at?
I'm on. Like I said, like I mentioned before, when we were watching it, and how what my wife said struck me as sort of yeah, it's true. If I'd seen this back then, I would have been more apt to like it better, as like what you said. And then going back and watching it, I love the movie. I still do. It just didn't quite have the same impact as it had, of course, first watching it, or the second or third times watching, because of everything that's come out since then. Doesn't change my star rating for this movie, though, because still love it. But I'm pretty much right there where Will is with the 3 3/4 stars. Although maybe, back when I first saw this movie in theaters the first time, or even on video when it came out, I might have been more apt to give it a 4-star back then.
Yeah. I'm probably about the same. I think I'll just keep it the same across the board and go with you guys with 3 3/4. Very well done. Well shot, well edited. Soundtrack is awesome. The acting is good. I mean, it doesn't get much better as far as this genre of the horror movie. You'd be hard pressed to find many that are done this well and have such a high pedigree. With a couple of the actors, but also with Danny Boyle directing it. Not many have that kind of clout in the horror genre. But yeah, I've seen this a number of times, and I've enjoyed it pretty much every time I've seen it. It's not something you want to watch all the time, obviously. This isn't like a rewatch, like every year kind of movie, but maybe every few years or so, and when you're hankering, you plug it in, you'll enjoy it. So yeah, I think we're all in agreement here. It's solid, at 3 3/4 stars. All right, so coming up next on the next episode of the All American Spook Show podcast, we are going to be watching one of our favorites from 1987, The Monster Squad. Definitely far less dire than what we just watched. So this lands more on the Leprechaun side of things, as far as topics of movies are concerned. The IMDb synopsis on this movie is brief, but it tells you all you need to know. A young group of monster fanatics attempt to save their hometown from Count Dracula and his monsters. So yeah, I mean, like, this movie came out in August of '87, so I just turned 7 years old myself. So like, this movie was right in my wheelhouse, when it came out, and I probably saw it, sometime after. I don't think I saw this at the movie theater, but I probably saw it within the next year or two after that. Like, I always thought it was cool that it had all the monsters in it, like all the classic Frankenstein and Dracula and the Mummy and all that. Although they're different from the regular Universal classic monsters, but it's still close enough to where it's like, oh man, this is cool,
oh yeah.
And it has that Goonies feel to it, so.
Yep, definitely.
But yeah, that's what we're going to be watching on the next episode, which will be, I believe, episode 28, if I'm not mistaken.
28 episodes later? Oh, shit. We missed the opportunity to 28 episodes later.
Damn, we're one shy. Yeah, so episode 28 will be the Monster Squad. So I guess if that's all, we got all for 28 days later, and stick with us for next time for the Monster Squad, and make sure everybody here in the U.S. and all around the world, I hope you stay safe and listen to, like they always say, listen to the science, listen to what the people are telling you about this virus pandemic that's, affecting pretty much everybody in the world. So hopefully you stay safe out there. Hey, stay at home. We got plenty of episodes for you to kick back and go watch the movies and listen to the podcast. So there's no shortage of things to do. So just stay at home, listen to the podcast, go watch these movies, and just have a good time, and try to enjoy it as best you can. So I guess for Will and for the Professor Smoke, I'm Josh, and we are the All American Spook Show podcast, and we will see you next time, guys.
We hope you enjoyed the show. Come back next time for an all-new, all-American Spook Show podcast.